Good morning. For those that had a chance to meet, my name is Steve Masters. I'm the full-time director of the Baptist Collegiate Ministry at LSU, which I've been doing for 22 years. And for the last 12 years, I've been the Transitions Ministry Coordinator for Lifeway Christian Resources. They contacted me about 12 years ago. They were concerned about the loss of our high school seniors from our churches and how that was affecting our college ministries. And so they asked me to help give attention to that. So every student, 125,000 6th to 12th graders attend Student Life, Centrifuge, Mission Fuge, or World Changers each summer. I developed a card that every junior and senior in high school that goes fills out that card, and it has contact information, and it has where they're going to college. It's sent to me at LSU. I hire a team of students, and we process out those cards. So if a kid, look at a card and it says the kid's going to Texas Tech University, we'll send that information to the BCM director there at Texas Tech so he or she can make contact with them before they arrive on campus. So as a result of that, I'm also very involved in the youth ministry in our country. I'm the BCM representative. There's about 800 BCM directors like me, and there's about 7,000 youth ministers. So I go to conferences and I go to meetings and I'm involved in discussions about what are we doing as a denomination, as local, state, and National Baptist Church work, reaching 6th to 12th graders and college both. So I know a lot of what's happening with our youth ministry culture. As a result of that, and a second reason, the Parenting Teens magazine comes out. There's 125 or so thousand adults receive that magazine in the country. Southern Baptist Convention produces it. They called me and said, Steve, as a result of what you're doing there, we'd like for you to write an article on how can parents make their children be spiritual? What can you do to raise your children to be spiritual? The second reason they asked me that, and it was nice what the editor said, was we know that your 3 daughters have turned out spiritual. Now, the old stereotype with ministers is sometimes they're wild as all get out, and that does happen. In my observation, I would say probably 2/3 or more, maybe even 3/4 of the youth ministers' kids turn out spiritual. So I'm not any different than a lot of them are. But I have been fortunate, my wife and I have been very fortunate that our 3 daughters did turn out to be spiritual people. My oldest daughter, Michelle, is on staff at Healing Place. She's an assistant to the pastor and helps coordinate a lot of ministries there. She married Rob Groh, who's he's a graphic artist and plays in the praise band there. And so she's been at that church for many, many years, and she loves the Lord and gives leadership to a lot of people in that capacity. My middle daughter, Danielle, is a housewife right now in Katy, Texas. I tell people he's married. I've got an ideal situation as a father-in-law. She's married to a guy. He makes a lot of money, and he's tight. I mean, he is. I go play golf with him, and he makes me pay. You know, he's tight. But as a father-in-law, you love that, you know. But when she was a senior in high school, she was hired in November of her high school senior year. A church saw her commitment to the Lord as a youth minister. And so during her senior year in high school, she served as a youth minister and served for 4 more years at Church of the Highlands. And then she married Matt and became a housewife. My third daughter, Lindsay, you guys know Lindsay. She was on staff, was an intern with me last time I was interim here. She's now the college and missions minister at Jefferson and doing a really, really good job there. So I've been fortunate to have 3 daughters. And I'm not saying they have to go into the ministry either, because as you know, Danielle's not. But they are spiritual. So he said, as a result of that, I'd like for you to write this article. Now, before I get into the article, I want to be Debbie Downer for just a minute. We are losing our older youth in massive numbers. We're talking major numbers. 100,000 high school seniors a year, in my opinion, walk away from our churches, walk away from the Lord, are what I call lost sheep. To give you illustrate this, 125,000 6th to 12th graders attended those camps I just mentioned. There should be about 16,000 each grade at those camps if we're reaching them in the same numbers, and there's no drop-off. You know how many cards I got last summer? 4,000 seniors and 5,000 juniors. That means that we're only reaching about 3 or 4% of that 125,000. That means that we're reaching a massive number of 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, but when they start getting their driver's license and they start choosing faith on their own, we're losing them. Why? Several things. Youth ministry turnover. When a youth minister is at a church, and by the way, the average stay of a youth minister in our denomination is 18 months. All 3 of my daughters, when they were growing up, at a Stream Baptist Church, which is a major church, strong youth ministry, we had 6 of them, including me twice. Our problem at our church is we were hiring young guys with families trying to go to seminary, trying to run a ministry, running a couple hundred youth, and it was just too much. So it was a church's fault, it wasn't the youth ministry's fault necessarily. But when a parent divorces a child, this child still sees mom and dad at some point. When a youth minister leaves, it's like a death. You don't ever see him again. Hardly ever. There's hardly any contact. So that's one reason. Second reason, change in youth ministry culture and direction. When I was there at Streamer one time, I was interim youth minister. We took a big bunch. We took of adults, and we took college students, and we took youth, and about 80 of us went to Mexico. Had a fantastic mission trip, intergenerational. It was really good. The next guy came in, decided did not do that trip again. And so it just kind of killed the momentum. So sometimes the youth ministry can come in and change what's already in place. I'm a big believer in the church deciding the direction of the youth ministry, and the youth minister comes in and tries to carry it out. Youth beginning a part-time job. You young people here. I know I worked in high school, and I know that, but try to get a job where the boss will let you off on Wednesday nights or Sunday nights so you don't lose your connection to the church. Sports activities, baseball, football, basketball. And I'm an athlete, so I know I come from an athletic background, so I know, but it can take away if you're not careful. The focus of the youth ministry may be on the middle school. Sin culture. It is so much easier now. You know, when I was in high school and I was in college, you know, pornography was something you had to work at. You had to go to an adult bookstore or maybe sneak back in someplace and buy a magazine. Today they can flip on a switch on the computer and it's right there. The sin culture is much easier, and I think that affects some of the problems we're having now. The old stereotype was that youth played too much, that they did too much. They just did pizza fellowships, or they just went and did things. I'm convinced now that it's swung the other way. As I deal with youth ministers around the country, many of them want the students to be spiritual. They want them to be strong, but they don't do enough play. I think you got to do a balance of both. I took the youth last week to play laser tag. Well, there were some youth went on that trip that I didn't know. They were prospects for our church. I can sit and talk to them, visit with them, connect with them. They connect with us. Now, I think you can do too much play, but I also think you can do too little play, so it's got to be a balance in there. The separation of youth ministry and the rest of the church, especially in larger churches. One of the problems we have in some of our, is sometimes the youth are over here and the rest of the church is over here. And then lack of spiritual transformation. I've got some other reasons, but I want to get into sharing you with some practical ways, the things we can do to counter some of these. The first, what I would share with you, is encourage mission involvement. Acts 1:8 says, when you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, you shall be my witnesses, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost part of the earth. I cannot tell you the number of students, hundreds of students over the years, freshmen that come into our Baptist Collegiate Ministry. I will ask them, well, why did you stay true to Christ? I went on a mission trip. I went on a mission trip. I went on a mission trip. I was involved in missions. Missions is a major, major component. Parents and grandparents here, if your son or daughter can go on a mission trip, send them. Scholarship them, help them to go. It will help them in such great ways. The college students here went on a mission trip to Mission Arlington, and they're going back in December. Those trips are so valuable because you get to see God in action. You know, it's real practical, and you get to connect with each other. Missions is huge. As a church, let me encourage you to sponsor some intergenerational trips. Sponsor some trips where maybe some older children can go. They can still do mission work. Missions is big, and I would encourage you guys to keep doing that. The next one, help them relate and get to know the church staff and other adults in the church. Hebrews 10:23-25 is one of my favorite passages of Scripture. It says, let us consider how we may stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together, as is in the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as the day draws near. What that verse basically says to me is, as we come together as spiritual believers, we challenge each other. We encourage one another. I am convinced that young people catch Christianity as much as they learn it. And not just young people. I'm convinced all of us, we catch that. I have a personal testimony. A dream of mine was to play college basketball. I was a good high school player. I went to college. I was young. I was one of those guys. I graduated from high school when I was 17. So I was 17 when I started my freshman year in high school. I went out for the basketball team at Northeastern State University. Didn't make it. That next year, I grew about another inch and a half, got a little stronger, worked out all summer long, and decided not to go out for the team that year, though, because I didn't think I could make it. About a month into the season, about a month before season started, right when practice was beginning, the head coach called me and said, Steve, our backup point guard has torn his ACL. Would you come and be our backup point guard? So I got to do my college dream. I played basketball that year. I'd play 3 or 4 minutes a game. They'd put me in tight situations because I was a good dribbler and good passer. And it was a dream of mine to do it. Stayed involved in church, stayed involved in Baptist Student Union, but was not as spiritual as I should have been. At the end of that semester, the season ended. They had a state basketball tournament in Oklahoma City with all the BSUs. About 40 BSUs around the state came in and played all these games, and they invited me to go. Well, when I got there, I played in the tournament, and we had a great time in the tournament. But what happened is I rode up there with four guys that were juniors and seniors that loved the Lord a lot more than I did. And all the way up there, they were talking about books they were reading. They were talking about scriptures they were memorizing. They were talking about what God was doing in their life and how God was going to affect their careers. And that they don't realize it. I wish I could find them all today and just thank them personally, because that really impacted me. Because it made me realize that I wasn't there. I wasn't as committed to the Lord as they were. I came back from that trip and recommitted myself to the Lord. A couple months later, I got an opportunity to go work at Glorieta Baptist Conference Center on church staff that summer, all summer long, kind of like a summer missionary. During that summer, had a great experience, started sensing God's call to ministry. I was leader of a drama team and a leader of a puppet team, and got to speak at some churches. And the head coach called me and said, "Steve, they got a new coach. He said, I'd like for you to come back and join the team this year. You might even if it opens up, we might even be able to get you a scholarship," which was pretty big because I was working my way through college. But I had felt God's sense call to ministry, and I told him no. I said, "Thanks for the opportunity, and I enjoyed my year playing, but I'm going to concentrate on really getting involved in my church and the Baptist Student Union." It changed my course of my life. I felt God's call to ministry, and then from then on, it was history. But I caught Christianity from those guys. And so it's so important we spend time with one another. We spend time with believers. And if you're surrounded by people who love the Lord, you cannot help in my ways. Other things to do. That's why mission trips are so important. That same principle. Summer youth conferences, which I'll talk about in a second. Sunday school, sensing and being with each other. One of the things that I'm enjoying about my time as interim with you right now is the college students. These college students, I don't know if you saw it tonight, the room was packed out this morning. There's a huge group of them coming. That makes it a lot easier for me because I want these youth to be around these college students. They've decided that Christ is important in their life, and that will help the youth ministry in this church. I was very fortunate. My daughters were not just raised by Pam and I, they were raised by a whole group of college students who love the Lord. They went on trips with us, and that's one of the reasons I think they turned out so well. It was a whole group of people that helped raise them spiritually, and not just Pam and I. The next thing is involve students in ownership of the church. 1 Peter 4:10 says, "As each one has received a spiritual gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God." What that means is, and I'm a big believer in this, that each of us, as we become a believer, has gifts, spiritual gifts or gifts. We're to use those for the Lord. If today you don't know your spiritual gifts, I would encourage you to talk to Leo or go online. There's some fantastic spiritual gifts inventories. Learn what your spiritual gift is and try to use it. That's when the church is really going to be productive, when everyone's using that. One of the things that's happened in the past 15 years or so is there's been a proliferation of youth praise bands. And I love that. As a student comes into the Baptist Collegiate Ministry, I reach a very high number of those students because they've had some ownership in the youth ministry. They've had it's their youth ministry. They've practiced and they've rehearsed and they've worked hard at it and they've tried to reach people. And so that's an example of what we're needing to do here. But church, are you really using youth like they could be? Could they take up the offering sometimes on Sunday? Could the youth greet at the back? Could the youth help with teaching Sunday school? We use them in Vacation Bible School, which is great, but that's a one-week thing. What can we do to involve the youth and let them use their spiritual gifts and talents and abilities throughout the year? It's so critical that we let them step up. This is a generation. By the way, in the last 8 to 10 years, it's been amazing to see. This generation wants to do something. They want to serve. And they'll do it secularly or they'll do it spiritually, depending on how much leadership we give them. So I think we should. The next one is realize the importance of summer student conferences. Centrifuge, Missionfuge. For this church, right now I'm working on scheduling the youth group to go to Student Life at the Beach next summer. I'm finalizing the details and working out how much it's going to cost. In the morning they'll have worship, in the night they'll have worship. Part of the reason I'm doing that for the church is if the new guy is here, then he'll be in charge of it, obviously. But the neat thing about it is that the church itself will decide what Bible studies do in small group experiences. Get behind that. Scholarship. Some of you may not have any kids or grandkids, but you can help scholarship someone to go. Parents, guard that week. Find out when it is as soon as we announce it. Take that week and protect it because that's one of the best weeks that people can go. Trent is here this morning. Trent, I haven't talked to Trent, but I think Trent won't mind me doing this. Trent went a couple times to student life camp, got an emotional high, kind of drifted back. Am I right, Trent? But that camp, it had enough impact on him, and now he's back and he's on the right track, right? Don't you think so? So that student life camp helped him. I mean, whatever camp we went to, I think it was Centrifuge, but it helped him, and he's an example of that. God can use those weeks to help students to really grow and mature in their faith. Maybe not even right then. It didn't necessarily help Trent for that year, but it's helped him now because it helped him to look back and get his life right together. And that's a classic example of the importance of those summer youth camps. So make sure you guard those weeks. And the scripture example of that is found in Matthew chapter 14. I won't read it to you, but it's always fascinating to me. Jesus had just fed the multitudes. Massive number of people. Great example of his wisdom and his knowing God and being Christ and who he was. You know what he did? Instead of getting with those 3,000 people and discipling them and working with them and encouraging them and talking with them, he left and went to a lonely place to pray. Sometimes we need to go to a place to get away from everything else. And let me tell you, with these youth need to, right now they're involved in texting, Facebook, computers. Getting away from all that and concentrating on God is of great importance. So make sure those summer camp stays is an important thing. The next one is secure a spiritual mentor for your middle or high school students. 2 Timothy 2:2 says, and this is Paul speaking to Timothy, the things you've learned from me in the presence of many witnesses, these entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. There's 4 generations mentioned there. Think about that for a second. Paul speaking to Timothy, the things you've learned from me, take these to the faithful men who will be able to teach others also. That's what Christianity is all about, in discipleship. I would encourage you, parents, to take me up on this. I'll be glad to work with you. I know Leo will. Let's secure a spiritual mentor or discipleship partner for your son or daughter. Now, what that person would do, it might be once a month. They get together, they sit down, they have an appointed time, and they say, well, how are you doing in your Bible study time? How are you doing on using your spiritual gifts? They're praying for them. They're encouraging them. They're keeping up with them. And I can guarantee you, they're also going to be helping them too, not just spiritually. They're going to be helping them emotionally. How's things going at school? How's things going at home? How's things going with your career? What are you thinking about, especially as you get to be older youth? Now, if we have a son or daughter that wants to be a good athlete, what do? We take them, and I'm not have a problem with this. We may hire a trainer. I gave an example this morning. The pastor of a Stream Baptist church, Jeff Ginn, his son Zach plays on the Denham Springs High School golf team. He's a good golfer. Last year, by the way, I was very disappointed last year. They won regionals, and Catholic won regionals, and who got the press? Catholic did. But anyway, he's a really good golfer. Well, what Jeff did, Jeff hired someone to help him with his putting and someone else to help him with his short game. And Zach goes and meets with them. And Jeff pays him to help him to be a better golfer. If we want someone to be a better musician, what do? We hire someone to teach them how to play the instrument. If we want there's someone not doing well academically, or we want someone to really accelerate academically, we hire someone to be a trainer. Now, when you secure this discipleship partner or spiritual mentor for your son or daughter, they'll probably do it for free. But I would encourage you to pay them a small stipend, because that makes a tremendous statement to your son or daughter that spiritual life is just as important as those other things. And in our society, many times it ain't. Sports can be, Parkview Baptist High School. I'm sad to share this with you. I've got a deep love for Parkview, and I've had Parkview students for 22 straight years. But the God of Parkview Baptist High School, in my opinion, and I told the headmaster this, told the principal this, and I've told some teachers this, I'm trying to work with them, is athletics. Last year, there was 125 high school seniors that went to Parkview Baptist High School. You know how many of them really love the Lord, who are active in church? About 20. And that's what it is. And so that's the thing we're facing here. We want God to be the most important thing and not sports. Secure a spiritual mentor for your son or daughter. And probably the most important one, by the way, these are not in any particular order of importance except this one. This is probably the most important one of all that I'm sharing with you today. It's Colossians 3:17. Live it out. Live it out. If your son or daughter is like you, or your grandson or daughter is like you, what does that make them? Are they just a Sunday morning Christian, just doing it out of habit, just doing it out of a culture? Or do you really love the Lord? Are you studying your Bible? Are you praying? Are you using your spiritual gifts? Are you sharing your faith? Are you trying to be a strong spiritual leader? Because they're going to be like you are. One of the songs that I loved, and once it gets to mind, you guys will recognize this song. A lot of you that are 40 and older, was, I'm going to be just like you, Dad. I'm going to be just like you. Remember that song in the 70s? It was a sad song. It was a folk song, But think about that. That's exactly what happens spiritually. They're going to turn out many times like you are. And if you love the Lord, they're going to love the Lord. So it's real critical that you live it out and be a 24/7 Christian and not just a Sunday morning Christian only. One of the frustrations I feel right now with being an interim youth minister here is our Sunday school attendance. By the way, youth, I'm proud of you guys today. It was up a little bit today. But I'm frustrated that we don't have more, especially, I'm not as frustrated with the high school attendance. Because when they get to be 16 or so, when they start driving, I realize it's up to how much we've done these other things, whether or not I'm okay with negotiating with them and not necessarily, quote, forcing them to come to church. But when they're 15 and under, they need to be here. They don't come to you and say, oh, I don't feel like going to school today. Okay, it's okay. You just stay home. It's okay. You don't have to go to school. When they're sick, you don't go and say, oh, it's okay. Maybe you'll get over it. We take them to the doctor. We take them to school. We take them to church. They need to be here. Parents, and I'm very frustrated about that. I'm a very big believer that parents, it's your problem if they're not here. It's not their problem. They come to church. Terry Whitehead and I have had some good conversations about this, And Matt knows he's coming to church. Now, Matt loves the Lord, and he keeps coming to church for that reason. But that's an example of what I'm talking about here. And let me share this with you, too. I had a psychology professor in seminary that said it's easier to act your way into a better way of feeling than to feel your way into a better way of acting. Now, let that soak in for a second. I'll say it again. It's easier to act your way into a better way of feeling than to feel your way in a better way of acting. Now, Pam's here, and you guys may want to talk to her and confirm this with her after a while. But one of the problems I've had over the years is I would take my clothes and throw them down in the bedroom and just leave them there. Any husbands do that? Not put them in the hamper? And then another problem I had is I didn't help her with the laundry. Well, for some reason, I don't know what happened. I don't know what she finally got through about a year or so ago. I started doing more laundry. But then she would get frustrated with me because I would do the laundry but not put them up. And she said, that didn't really help me that much. I would just wash them and leave them in the washer or dry them and leave them in the dryer. So then I decided, okay, I'm gonna keep in this progression. So about 3 or 4 months ago, I decided I'm going to start trying to put them up. And so even this morning, I got up this morning to come to church this morning, and I decided to leave early enough to get me a donut because I want to eat before that first service. But I went and got all the clothes I'm caught up on my laundry right there. By the way, at the house. I'm trying to do the laundry. And so I went and got the clothes. Well, she had went to sleep last night after taking a shower, and she had a towel, and she was on her pillow. Well, I real quietly tried to pull that pillow out, and I didn't get it out, and I woke her up. And that did not go over well. And she yelled at me. But I've got to the point now where I've done it, and it's nature. You see what I'm talking about? Exercise. How many of you guys have ever wanted to go exercise, and you really didn't want to go, but you went, and you're glad you did? All of us have. Sometimes it's easier to do it. Now, I'm not a big Nike fan. I'm not saying to buy Nike products, but I do like their slogan, just do it. I think that's true in Christianity. Sometimes you study that Bible because you know you need to. Sometimes you pray when you know you need to. Sometimes you go to church when you know you need to. There's times you don't want to come to church, isn't there, Leo? There's times he would rather be out someplace else, but he comes because he knows he needs to, and you get in the habit of doing it, it follows. And the same thing will true spiritually, I'm telling you, if you'll help your sons and daughters to do that. As we come to a time of closing today, I'm going to ask those of you, your parents, to think about your son or daughter. How are you doing with them? Hopefully some of these principles help you. There's many others I'm sure that can help you. I know there is. But how are you doing with them? Grandparents, how about your son or daughter? And I know that in a crowd like this, there's some of you guys that your son or daughter has drifted away. What can we do to bring them back? We can pray for them. If there's anything I can do to help, is there anything Leo can do to help? That one of my concerns about our denomination is I don't think we're doing enough to bring back the lost sheep that are out there, because I'm convinced there's tons of them. At LSU, I get the Baptist preference list from the university, which means every time a student fills out their admissions form, if they indicate they're Baptist, I get their name. I got 700 names last week of freshmen at LSU that are indicated they're Baptist. We probably have 100 to 150 that come to BCM. So that's 450, 500 that are out there that haven't been over there yet. Many of those are lost sheep. They know the Lord, but they've drifted for whatever reason. And most of them, though, we didn't lose them in college. We lost them in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And that's what I'm trying to address today. What can we do about that thing? As we come to a time of closing, you may want to come and pray for someone that you're concerned about. You may want to pray for just the youth ministry of the church. As the youth ministry committee begins to look for someone, some of you may want to come for salvation, rededication. This message has mainly been for Christians, but we always are open to the gospel. I'm going to turn over to Leo at this time.